And welcome back to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. Thank you all for joining me today, just me in the studio talking with you. So please feel free to call in and share your ideas, your thoughts, your questions. 877-480-4120. Or if you happen to catch me on the Facebook live stream, you can go to facebook.com/talkingalternative. There's the live stream video. You can see it. You can post your comments, and I will read your comments and answer them, of course. So hopefully you see I also just shared it on my personal timeline, so hopefully more people will come in and join the conversation. So we're talking about synthesis prime. What is synthesis prime? Well, first let's talk about the prime part. The prime part is about our prime archetypes that are active within our psyches. What are the prime archetypes? There are two of them. And the prime archetypes are those relationships that we form at the youngest of ages when we're just babies. And those are the archetypes of the father, the paternal archetype, and the mother, the maternal archetype. So usually it's the maternal archetype that is formed first in our psyches, because when we're born as little kids, it's the mother that's usually taking care of us first. It's the mother that feeds us, clothes us, holds us, and takes care of all of our bodily functions for us when we're little babies. So the maternal archetype, let's start there. And then we'll get into the paternal archetype, and then we'll talk about how we synthesize them. So the maternal archetype. What is the maternal archetype? Think about the archetypal mother. Some people call it the divine feminine. It's that part, that characteristic that women in our society are imbued with. Now, again, these are archetypes. These aren't actual physical people. And these are also very cultural. So what might be a maternal archetype in one culture could be different in another culture. I'm going to speak primarily from a Western person brought up in the United States. That's what I know. But when you think about the mother, what is the mother? The mother is maternal, is nurturing, is supportive, and is, some people like to say passive. I would say more receiving. The mother is a great receiver. Mothers also tend to be very intuitive. And mothers are all about relationships. And so from the earliest of time in our lives, we learn about relationships from the mother archetype. Now, keep in mind that if there's some tragedy and the mother dies in childbirth and the father has to rear the child on his own, then the father actually will take on the characteristics of both archetypes. And if it's not the father, maybe the child gets sent away and is raised by the grandparents or an aunt or an uncle or an older sibling. It's not important who the actual person is. It's the relationship. It's who holds that presence in our lives when we're children. So the mother is where we learn all about relationships, because the mother is the first relationship we ever have in our life. When we're born, we are directly connected to our mothers. That is our first and primary relationship. And that relationship is our model, is our, archetype is our blueprint for how we relate to every other human being in the world. Now, for some people, that's great news. For other people listening, you're probably in tears right now. For other people, you're telling me, Sam, you're crazy. There's no way that can be true. Unfortunately, it is in some way. Now, this is not to say that we do not grow and develop and things, change a little bit, but we're talking about our core beliefs. Our core patterning happens with our primary relationship, which is to the mother. And that dictates how we relate to other people. It dictates whether they're friends, family members, co-workers, partners, spouses, intimate partners. that whole category of relationships in Jungian terms is ruled by or is a blueprint on top of our relationship with the archetypal mother. And so if you look at your life and if you look at how you relate to other people, if you look at your relationship to relationships, right? What do you think about relationships? What do relationships mean to you? A lot of that patterning all comes from the relationship to the mother figure when we were little children. Now, the good news is that regardless of whether your mother is still alive or not, regardless of whether you had a great relationship or a lousy relationship, regardless of what that initial patterning was or is, we can change it. We can repattern it. We can realign it. We can, I don't want to say heal it, but we can reintegrate it into our psyche and allow it to be the way that we really want it to be. And again, this goes back to our quotes of the day today. It's what do we want, not what do we don't want. Yes, maybe the way you've related to other people throughout your entire life has not been the way that you've wanted it to be. That first level of awareness and consciousness is exactly what we need to shift and change. So being aware that this is what it has been, it can now activate within us. How do we want it to be? Now again, because these are very primal, core patternings that are within us, are they going to change overnight? They can. Not very likely. It depends how malleable a psyche you are. It's going to take some effort. It's going to take some work. And you want to, in repatterning it and changing this, you really want to engage all of your senses. What does that mean? That means first you want to visualize what do ideal relationships look like to you, starting with your relationship with the mother archetype. And it can be with your actual mother. It can be with the person who held that figure in your life. Or you can even just create an image of an ideal mother figure in your mind's eye and visualize what does that relationship look like. How are you relating? What is the tone of voice? What is the, how does it physically look? Is it one that's affectionate or not affectionate? Is it one that's very respectful? Is it one that's more familiar? Is it one that, encourages and uplifts you? All right. So visualize first, not first, but that's one of the senses we want to engage. Then you want to engage the mind and you want to write it out. Write long stories about this ideal relationship with your mother archetype, with this mother figure within us. Write out all kinds of scenarios, all kinds of stories. Maybe even take these incidences within your life that have happened to you that didn't go the way you wanted to with the mother figure and rewrite it the way you would have wanted it to go. In your ideal world, how would the ideal mother have shown up, reacted, and responded in that situation? Write it all out. By writing it out, it activates many senses and it gets it more into the body. All right, and then we want to use the body more. Movement is very, very important. So maybe you do some exercises and some affirmations while you're exercising to really get it into your body and visualize it. Maybe you go running or jogging or hiking, connecting with nature, and think about nature as sort of a symbol for Mother Earth and for the maternal archetype. Go doing yoga, doing meditation, and doing different kinds of walking meditations, active meditations, but get the body involved. And as you're moving the body more and more and more, visualize, create those affirmations, and instill in the body what it is you want, not what actually was, but what it is that you want. And then finally, in the aspect of spirit, meditation, meditating on these various relationships, these various things that have happened, the energies. What does even the image of a mother call up inside of you? What are the emotions that you're feeling? And then transforming them. And this is something that I've done at the Conscious Business Collective, a process for actually healing that relationship and not so much healing, let's say realigning, reconfiguring that pattern. And so if you're interested and you want that process, you just need to contact me at sam@theconsciousconsultant, and we'll be making those audios available in the near future. So we have this mother archetype. The amazing thing is that as we shift that relationship within us to the mother archetype, almost inevitably, almost instantaneously, almost pervasively, we then see our relationships, all kinds of relationships in our lives start to shift, right? To our relationships with our friends, to relationships to our family, to, if our parents are still alive, to our actual relationships to our parents, to the relationship to ourselves, the most important relationship. Because this is all inner work, and this is all work that is within us. It's not really about the other person. It's really about shifting and realigning and reconfiguring the relationship we have to different aspects of ourself. And when we make those shifts internally, then the external follows suit. Then all of a sudden, our relationships to the opposite sex, or to our partners, or to our spouses, or to whoever we hold near and dear to ourselves in our lives, start to shift. And they shift, I don't want to say without effort, but they shift naturally. And yes, we need to reinforce these shifts. We need to support those energies so that they are something that we build upon and that we grow, because that's what we want. So it does take a lot of focus to remind ourselves when we find ourselves slipping back into those old patterns, slipping back into those old ways of being, that's not what we want. This is what we do want. This is how we want to show up. And even just like visualizing that, visualizing how do you show up in relationships that is now different than it was before, it can be so, so, so important. So that is the mother archetype. The mother archetype, which rules over our patterns around intimacy, relationships, all kinds of things. And let's face it, it's a very, very important archetype, because we don't do anything completely alone. Everything we do, whether it's in our business, in our personal life, everything involves other people. And the more we're in alignment, the more we're at peace, and the more we're tranquil with our relationship to the mother archetype within us, the more those relationships are peaceful and tranquil and are the way we would like them to be. All right. So next segment, we're going to talk about the father archetype, the paternal archetype, what that rules over, and how that shows up in our life, and what we can do to realign that. So everybody, please stay tuned. You're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, and we'll be right back.